Hi, I'm Charlie Lorenz, the Abalone Hunter. Welcome to an educational adventure in Mendocino County, California's premier abalone hunting location. We're here at Todds Point, located off Ocean View Drive in Fort Bragg, California. Today, our topic is to review over the new 2014 Abalone Regulations. Also, we're going to review, well, we know that some of your abalone dive gear has been abstaining and sitting on the shelf during the winter months. So we need to review how to check some of this gear so you can show up to wherever your dive site's going to be and have a successful hunt. We're also going to review, in particular, here at Todds Point, some of the facilities, how to make entries and exits. Also, we're going to review about the weather, upcoming weather on April 1st, our opening day for abalone season. So welcome to the show, but first, a word from our sponsor.
The beautiful Mendocino coast, a place for rest, recovery, and well-being, inner calm and contentment, complete relaxation, heal chronic pain and disease, stretch your breath and your body, fun, laughter, and joy, your body's natural cleansing, present in the moment, licensed professional therapists and healers. On the coast at Dragonfly Wellness Center, 1 mile south of Highway 20 on Highway 1. 707-962-0890. www.dragonflywellness.org.
Welcome back to the show. And we're here at Todds Point, and you will notice there's plenty of parking along here. I mean, this is a big area, this bluff, plenty of parking. And directly right off of Ocean View, you will see this guardrail, and it is okay to park over here. As far as other facilities, there are no bathrooms, no showers. There's really no place that you could change, so if you're going to be gearing up, be polite, and you know, use a towel to cover yourself or dress in your vehicle. You know, we don't want to scare off any children. But in any case, other than that, the entry and exit points here is what we need to discuss, because this is a little bit more of an advanced diving location than some of the other places we have reviewed. This is definitely a rocky entry with a steep cliff. Not a very long hike down to the ocean's edge, but very steep and can be slippery, especially on days like, as you can see, cloudy, it's wet and damp, it can get muddy. So be careful when you're starting to walk down the trail, okay? Now we'll walk down here and take a look at another place over here that is as of concern, and that is when you're almost down to the dive site, there's this one spot. It's kind of a big drop off, you know, not too big, maybe about 8 feet at most, but you're going to need a rope to get down there. Now, there is usually a rope already set up for your convenience, but you might want to keep in mind that rope has been sitting here all year long, and it might be frayed and maybe at the point of breaking. So be prepared if you're going to dive here. Bring a spare rope. Also, if you're going to be bringing your rope, you want to put some knots in it so it'll be easier to hold on to, especially after the dive when you're trying to climb back out. Your hands are going to be cold, they're going to be wet and slippery, and if you've got your gloves on, you want something with knots to be able to pull yourself up a little easier. Once you get down to those rocks, I mean, there are abalone easily for rock picking all in this area, all into those rocks there. I mean, this place is just slathered with abalone. You can start diving in 6 feet, 8 feet, down to 20 feet and find, you know, easily legal size abalone. On a minus tide especially, very, very shallow for quite a distance out into the ocean. I mean, we're talking about a good 50 yards or better. If you were to try and make this entry, you would be crawling around in these rocks. It's a great place for shore picking or rock picking. But keep in mind, if you're a diver, if you've got really long fins, it's going to be a problem trying to use those fins crawling over these shallow rocks. So for my recommendation in this area, it'd be really nice to have some shorter fins to be able to maneuver into these rocky areas. When we talk about entries and exits here at Todds Point, this is a very rocky, shallow environment here. I mean, on a minus tide, you'll be crawling around in rocks as far out as 50 yards into the ocean. So if you're going to be planning to diving out here, trying to use long fins is going to be a hassle. My recommendation, if you're going to be diving in this area, crawling through these rocks, you may want to have some shorter fins to maneuver a little bit easier. But in any case, this is a kind of a shallow cove. In other words, it's not real deep like a Russian Gulch or Casper Cove. So it's more exposed to some of the weather conditions. So keep in mind, on a really rough day, you might really want to consider whether you want to go out here or not. Be safe about it. In any case, it's always recommended to plan ahead and have a second exit if your first entry point or your first point of exit that you were planning on gets totally washed out. You want to have a backup plan. In this area here, if you were to try and go south of this cove, there really is no exit at this point unless you plan on swimming all the way over to what is called Hare Creek. I mean, it's a good mile off from this area, and highly unlikely you're going to make it. You're going to need help from the Coast Guard. On April 1st, Tuesday, Wednesday, there is some prediction that we might have some south winds. And if you try to swim against south weather, that's going to be very difficult. Okay. The other escape route would possibly be on the north side of this cove. On some days there's a little bit of protection, especially if the weather is coming really hard from the north. But again, a lot of times the weather's coming straight from the west or from the south. It gets really, really bumpy on that north side, and exits are really, really difficult. Okay. So again, I really strongly urge, if you're going to dive in this area, there's very few exceptions as to where you can make a secondary exit. So plan on diving on a really nice calm day. It'd be much safer. I want to specifically talk now about the new 2014 Abalone Regulations. I want all of you to be aware that in the past, we were able to go diving 1/2 hour before sunrise and 1/2 hour after sunset. Now, I want you to be aware that we have a new start time, and that's at 8 a.m. So I want you to understand that if Fish and Wildlife was to catch you, especially with an abalone bar in your hand prior to the 8 a.m. start time, they can construe that you are in the act of hunting for abalone and therefore can actually write you a citation. So if you're going to be out there before 8 a.m., don't show that abalone bar or the gauge. It's okay to go ahead and swim out to your abalone hunting site, say like at Todds Point here, there's a rock that's, you know, offshore here a little ways. And if that's your favorite place to go hunt for abalone, it's okay to start at 7:30 and swim out to your little dive site that you're going to pick abalone. But don't be pulling that ab bar out and showing that there's, you know, that you're out there trying to pick abalone, or even that you're just looking for abalone. Try to refrain, just to be on the safe side. You don't want to get citations from Fish and Wildlife. They're very expensive. And so be conservative if you can. Adhere to the laws and wait till 8 a.m. to start hunting for abalone. Okay? Now the other new regulation is before we were able to take 24 in a year. That has changed, and this year we're only allowed to take 18. Further south it's a little different. You're allowed to take 9 in Sonoma County, but it's all going to be one abalone card that is configured to work for either Sonoma and Mendocino. So if you're over in Sonoma and you take your 9, you're going to mark on your little card, of course, that yes, I took my abalone in such and such a cove in Sonoma County. And then when you come over in Mendocino, you'll have the opportunity to take 9 more abalone to have a total of 18 that you could take overall. Okay, so those are the 2 big rules. Everything else is going to be the same. 3 in possession, only allowed to take 3 abalone in a day. 3 in possession, 7 inches or bigger. Again, you could follow all the rest of the regulations if you know them. If not, if you're a little bit confused, you can always go online to Fish and Wildlife. They have an area there, has a frequently asked questions area that you can go ahead and check out. And also they have all the regulations listed on your abalone report card to help you if you're confused, okay? There will be Mendocino Abalone Watch out there too. And if you have any questions, please don't be afraid to ask them. They're there for your help, so you can understand all the regulations. I just want to wish you luck. And now, let's go ahead and move on and talk about, well, what about your dive gear? It's been sitting on that shelf, abstaining for a while during the winter months. We should check it out. Be sure that everything's looking good so you can have a successful abalone hunt. Every episode, we're going to go over kind of a gear tip of the day. And for today, we're going to review over your mask and snorkel, the straps in particularly, and the snorkel keeper, the fins. We're talking about the fin straps, okay? When it comes to rubber products, like a lot of times in the fins, we have rubber fin straps sitting around. They can easily get rotten, get cracked, and you can have problems with it if you're not checking your gear. You get out there and next thing you know, you go to pull that fin strap over your heel and bam, it breaks on you. So it's a really good idea for you to check your gear a couple days to a day in advance before you decide to go on the abalone hunt. Okay, this way if you have a problem, you could basically make arrangements to go to the dive shop or wherever to go get your backup gear or to fix the problem so you can have a successful abalone hunt. When it comes to fin straps, I mean, look at the strap, see what kind of shape. Is there a lot of cracks in it? Any tears, any breaks? I mean, that's basically common, but something often overlooked is especially right where the clip is. People forget to look right underneath. It's kind of a hidden spot. So I would recommend pulling the strap, get that part that was underneath the clip exposed so you can see what's going on there. And not only just looking at it visibly, but pull on the strap. A lot of times there are hidden cracks, hidden tears, and pulling on the strap may expose that. I'm looking at this and it looks like it's in good condition. I mean, I'm putting a lot of stress on it right now. I feel fairly confident that if I go on an ab hunt that I would be okay. Check both sides. Just because one side is okay doesn't mean the other is okay. So far, it's looking pretty good. And just remember, this is just one fin. Just because one fin isn't looking good or is looking good, always check the second one. Just ensure everything's working good. Yeah, this is looking really good. No cracks, no breaks. This is what the concern is. A lot of times you're starting to see how it kind of looks normal, but when I start pulling it, you can start seeing some little bit of wear. Mast straps, snorkel keepers, same idea. Take a look at them, pull on them. Be sure there are no cuts. Most mast straps are going to be silicone, and they're pretty durable. They don't rot out so easily like rubber straps do, but they do cut easily. So again, you're looking at the strap, trying to find cuts, and especially under the hidden spots. Pull the strap out, look, you know, underneath where the strap is hiding under the clip. Again, on first inspection, looking at it this way, it looks like it might be okay, but if I pull it, what is that? It's a cut. And especially on mast straps like silicone, these cuts, I'll tell you, they break really easy. More than likely, this mast strap is going to break on you. Put a lot of stress on these things, because when you're out in the ocean, they are being stressed. Example, look how easily that broke because of that little cap, that cut. Okay, if there is no cut, I could pull and pull and pull, and it'd be good, but you just saw how easily a tiny little cut can break on these straps. That's why you got to pull on them, look for those little cuts, do the stress test. If they break on you, well, yeah, we got to replace the strap. So again, so you could be able to have a mask out there to be able to see your abalone. So yeah, real simple test, just looking, check underneath the clips, be sure that in these hidden spots there are no cuts or scrapes. This would be a seemingly good part of the mast, but as we demonstrated, one with the cut, they can break real easily. Okay, one last thing we want to cover is the snorkel. Again, we talked about the snorkel keeper, being sure, just like everything else, look for cuts, pull on them. Nothing worse than losing a snorkel because the snorkel keeper broke. This is a very important piece of dive equipment. This is life-saving equipment. I want you to understand that without a snorkel, you're going to have to be forced to keep your head out of the water like this to breathe. Realistically, in this position with the head out of the water, it's going to be pretty much like trying to hold a bowling ball out of water. Very difficult and can be exhausting. With the snorkel, a properly working snorkel in your mouth with the head down in the water, you're going to take away all of that weight and you're going to have really good buoyancy, and it'll be much easier for you, especially if you have a long swim. But again, check the snorkel keepers, check the mouthpieces, be sure they are in good condition. The same way with the mast strap, pull on them, look at them carefully. I mean, you know, they do come off. Be sure that nothing's torn, nothing's cut. I'm looking at my snorkel keeper, and my mouthpiece, and I don't see any cuts, no holes. Nothing worse than having a hole in the mouthpiece, because you'll be sucking water through the mouthpiece if there's a hole in it. Most mouthpieces fit really snugly over the snorkel. Oops, get back on here. But as a backup plan, you can get like a zip tie and put it right on here and tie it on. Makes it really secure. Okay, the other thing is, on most snorkels, they have these purge valves. And you want to inspect those. Be sure that there's no holes in them. They look really good and clean, and in fact, underneath, it's clean. Oftentimes, there will be sand or dirt that gets underneath this little flap here, and so the flap does not sit perfectly, and therefore it can allow water to get underneath. Okay, so you want to be sure that this little flap here, this little valve, is in perfect shape, sits flat, so then you will have a perfectly working, functional snorkel to have a safe dive. Of course, just a simple knot, all you're making, real easy. So you've got something you can put your hand up against as you're climbing up. Keep in mind though, you may have gloves on, so maybe might be beneficial to double knot it. Make a really big knot. So with your gloves on, definitely got a good stop there so your hands don't slip off. You know, got a good place to, especially with a nice thick glove. But this rope is going to make it very convenient for me in case that rope down below is out of shape and, you know, possibly frayed or cut and broken. I'll have a backup rope. But also, if that rope is in good shape and usable, it'll be nice to have this rope to tie my gear to. I mean, I could tie all of my gear, my inner tube, my dive bag with all the gear in it. Throw this up to my dive buddy, and then my dive buddy could pull this gear up, especially on that rock, because it's going to be difficult to reach to put that gear up on the rock. It's pretty high. So a nice rope is convenient for us for this dive location particularly. April 1st, Tuesday, we have a minus tide of about minus 0.3 feet at about 7:03 in the morning. Okay, the tide's going to be rising after that point. Tide's going to be coming in. Keep in mind the 8 a.m. new abalone start time. So you can't be diving for abalone at 7 a.m. anymore. Again, as we discussed, you can swim out to your dive site, get to your dive site by 8 a.m., pull out the ab bar, and then start hunting. Okay? But be careful, because also, according to the NOAA weather report on Tuesday, we're going to have south winds coming in, 5 to 10 knots. Not too windy, but you know, it might be enough to stir it up out here. We're going to have waves at approximately 10 feet at 13 seconds. That could be pretty bumpy, especially in this area here where it's very exposed to the weather, especially to south weather, west weather, or even a little bit from the north. Okay, right now we have a little bit north weather changing to south weather, which means we've got still currents coming from two different sides. And that's going to make what they call a confused sea. We're going to have some currents coming this way, currents coming from the south, currents coming from the north, and it's going to be all mixed up in the bunch, and it's going to make this kind of a choppy sea. So you're going to have to really be careful again and deciding, well, should I be diving here? It's always really good to plan ahead of time, have a backup plan. If Todds Point is kind of washed out, where else can I dive? Well, there's plenty of other places that are way more protected on these kind of conditions. Van Dam, Russian Gulch, Casper Cove. Close by, even the Noyo Harbor, that'll be a pretty safe place to dive. It's got great protection from south weather, okay, especially on the south side of the cove. Just to recap, real quick, some of the things that we talked about is the entries and exits, checking your equipment fruitfully just to be sure that, you know, when you arrive for your dive site, that you will have a successful abalone hunt. Plan ahead. Remember, there aren't any facilities here, so to speak. Parking is great, but the facilities are like nil. Remember the new Abalone Regulations for 2014? There's a new start time, 8 a.m. Can't go diving for abalone or hunting for abalone prior to 8 a.m. now. Also, we're only allowed to take 18 per year in Mendocino County. Sonoma, 9. But in combination, you could take 9 in Sonoma and take another 9 in Mendocino to have a total of 18. Keep in mind that the weather here, it might be a little bit bumpy coming up opening day. Be sure to plan ahead, so if you show up here and it's pretty washed out, okay, There might be other places you can look at, like Van Dam or Russian Gulch or Casper Cove, or even close by here, Noyo Harbor. We have south weather on the way, which kind of changes how to look at how to dive here. So again, if you have any questions, look for a MAW volunteer. There's going to be plenty of MAW volunteers out and about. They'll be happy to assist and, you know, help you with the new regulations, whatever questions you may have, and with weather reports, so forth. So this is Charlie Lorenz. I just want to say I wish you good luck out there in Abalone.